Coming up, the classic case of when your mouth write a check that your behind can't cash. Insufficient funds. Let's talk about it, y'all. Welcome to the chat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the chat. I'm Catalina Alurs. Henny and Angelia join the panel today. We are a small but mighty panel.
Fierce. There's nothing small about this.
That's very
right
true.
Now,
Our hair. Just there's
attitudes,
attitudes,
okay.
voices, nothing
I won't
small.
be included in the hair. They can have the hair, the fierce hair.
Oh, my hair is fierce.
I wish.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with a follow-up to a story we talked about yesterday. Google fired an employee who wrote a divisive memo blasting the company's diversity policies. To catch you up, a male engineer suggested women don't make up 50% of the company's tech jobs because of differences in abilities and preferences, and not because of sexism. James Damore confirmed he was fired, saying he is currently exploring all possible legal remedies. The Google CEO sent out a company-wide memo that said, in part, that the company strongly supports the right of staff to express themselves. However, portions of the engineer's manifesto violate the company's code of conduct, crossing the line by advancing harmful gender stereotypes, which is not surprising. I mean, some of the stuff he said in the memo, it makes sense, but I kind of like that the CEO cut his family vacation short, by the way, to go back to Google and immediately have a town hall meeting with the employees. Like that was a no, absolutely not moment.
Well, he had to, because this went viral. This was initially just an in-office memo that went out. It was a 10-page memo. 10 pages, by the way. This was not. This was an essay on this guy's behalf. But I don't know where I fall on this issue, because just reading more and more, finding out what everybody's side of the story is, I lean one way and then I lean another. So I'm not quite sure who I'm behind and supporting right now. The VP that we talked about yesterday, Danielle Brown, she was the new diversity, into the new vice president diversity position. And she said, this is her memo that went out on Saturday. So the memo that the guy sent out went out on Thursday, and then it circled throughout the company, until the weekend. So, but she said part of building an open, inclusive environment means fostering a culture which is to support those with alternative views, including different political views, feel safe sharing their opinions. And so Google has built these safe houses and safe for your opinion to be, for you to put it out there within the company. But yet when you do that, it's not a safe house for you. Then they're bashing you and saying that they don't want you to do that.
Girl, that's called corporate America.
Exactly.
It's very
confusing. I don't like it.
And also Google is really trying to protect their name, and everyone in Silicon Valley specifically is because, we talk about the gender pay gap, and especially in the tech field, especially in these startup companies and companies like Google, they're trying to say that they don't have a gender pay gap, and Google won't release their salary information to the government. So you want to believe that Google, being a progressive company that they are, wouldn't have a gender pay gap. But then you've got this guy saying all these things, furthering these gender stereotypes in the workplace. And it makes you wonder, is Google really the company that we dream of working for, because they are supposedly so progressive?
But I think this guy might have an actual lawsuit on his hands. I mean, he's
oh, honey, I don't think
there's so many attorneys that have actually gone to bat for him, saying that he possibly does. And he said, he actually sent in something to the New York Times, and he said, I have the right to express my concerns about the terms and conditions of my working environment and to bring up potentially illegal behavior, which is what my document does. So with that being said, he should be able to be safe in saying how he feels, because Google is a safe zone.
Should be able
so
to say.
He may actually have a leg to stand on, I think, with their code of conduct policy.
I'm really curious. I wish we could find a copy of their code of conduct, because that's what the CEO immediately came out and said. Because they didn't confirm the firing. It was him who confirmed the firing. The CEO, Google itself, did not. But I want to see what specific part of that code of conduct that he violated. They reference that it might be furthering these harmful gender stereotypes.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some very specific wording in that code of conduct.
Oh,
that
Google is ready. They're well protected. They probably have the best of the best lawyers.
That's what I'm saying. I want to see
Google
that
is one of the top 5 places to work for in the world. So you've got to know that they have their behinds covered really, really well. This guy should have known he cannot say anything like this and to tarnish Google's brand. Oh no, you got to go. Bottom line.
But what if he's right? That's what we're all waiting to see, is what if he's right? What if he ends up being a whistleblower?
I don't know. I don't know. This is going to go on for a little while, I think.
But it's going to get messy, too.
Something else that's hitting headlines today, a professor who says sex in a blackout isn't always rape. Kim Fromm is one of the country's foremost blackout experts and has testified in high-profile rape cases across the country. When attorneys want to convince juries and judges that drunk sex and rape aren't synonymous, they call her. Fromm says she often explains that it's reasonable to assume someone in an alcohol-induced blackout knows exactly what they're doing at the time that they're doing it, since their cognitive functions remain intact. So I find this really interesting, because a lot of people don't realize the difference between blackout and actually passing out. People think that a blackout is passing out, and you're not actually making voluntary actions. And with a blackout, you can be having a conversation, you can walk, you can have sex, you can say yes to sex, you could do whatever any other person can be doing who's not alcohol induced. So with that, I mean, I think that this woman is brilliant in coming to the forefront and explaining that, because I think a lot of people don't know that. So explaining that to jurors, I think she's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because this is such a gray area. The topic of consent when it comes to sexual assault has been such a gray area for so long because of that. People think blacking out equates to passing out. But then how are they going to, I'm very curious to see how they push this forward to college students. How is this, because, you have the organizations on campuses that try to educate students on, what things that you should be looking for in a partner if the two of you have been drinking, and whether or not the state she's in means that she can consent. So it's still it's going to be a gray area for a long time until we can really kind of clear out the language and say, if it looks like she wouldn't be able to walk in, a few minutes because she's that drunk, don't do it. She can't give consent.
I think she's very strong to come out and make these accusations, because as you guys can imagine, there has been a ton of not so nice comments to her on social media.
But
because
she's
it's such
the
a
expert.
touchy,
her history.
What makes a person an expert, though?
She has
years of research.
She has taught.
No, she's got years of research.
As a professor for 24 years on this subject. She at her university has a place that's called a bar room that she has in the back of her room, and she has tested students over and over and over again on their cognitive ability, on any, they literally go into this space, they drink, they do shots, and it has to do with how quickly you actually have the alcohol into your bloodstream. So the quicker you do shots versus, just sipping a beer, that actually can make blackouts happen quicker. But she has, she has uncovered so many different things, and that you can actually be, legally able to, or not legally, but possibly able to black out at 0.07, and that's just from
that's not even the legal limit.
That's not even illegal for driving. So she's figured out a lot of really neat research, and I think it's really pretty interesting. And she actually, I thought this lady, I was like, I want to read on her.
It is really
so
fascinating.
Much more.
Yeah, she is
really cool. But what she did is she actually did she's done over 100 surveys and studies that have been published. And one of her studies, she actually had her students, they celebrated their 21st birthdays together, and she had them come in after their 21st birthdays, and they all sat in a circle to talk about what happened the night before. And do you know 4 of those students actually had sex that they didn't know that they had?
Wow.
That's pretty interesting. So that will tell you right there. This woman has done the research. She's walked the walk and talked the talk, and she's producing it in courtrooms. And I would definitely listen to her if I were anybody.
I bet there's always a waiting list to get in her class.
I'm sure there is. I know. Can we sign up for that?
Well, the only reason she's getting a lot of hate is because she's usually on the defense side when it's a rape victim is alleging against their rapist, and usually the alleged rapist defense team will hire her to give these expert testimonies, like, well, she could have been in a blackout state, still cognitively giving consent, although she can't remember it. So that's why she's getting all that hate. But it's much needed work, because it's like, we have to figure this out. Have to.
Alrighty then. So we're going to move on now to new information about former pop star Aaron Carter. Following a string of bad press, the singer took to Twitter to announce that he's bisexual. The 29-year-old went on to explain that at around the age of 13, he, quote, started to find boys and girls attractive. His announcement was met with an outpouring of love and support from fans and other celebrities. Catalina, I'm going to toss it to you since you're the resident DJ. What do you think of this?
Okay, well, let's not talk like Aaron Carter really had much of a music career, first of all. But that's not, you know, dump on his parade right now, because I think it's very important. The time that he grew up in, he was really popular during like the pop invasion in the early 2000s. He was dating Hilary Duff, and that was a relationship that like fans loved to see. We fed on that relationship, loved it. But then think like not even 10 years before that, David Yost, who was the original Blue Power Ranger in the original series, he only came out last year. And when he was telling you about his story, is that he was scared to come out because there was backlash if you became openly gay in Hollywood. And so for Aaron Carter, it makes sense. He's had a lot of legal issues. You know, he supposedly had a DUI, he's had drug and alcohol problems. And like, if this really is true, if he really is coming out as bisexual right now, it makes sense, because those are demons that if you can't come to terms with those, and you feel like you're not in a safe, you're surrounded by people who love you to feel comfortable to finally come out.
Not just that, but being true to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard when you can't be true to yourself. I could imagine, I wouldn't know, but I could imagine that you are fighting those demons and you're living a lie every day. So I would imagine, you know, by him coming out with this, it's a relief for him. Be who you are, own it, and live with it. It is what it is. We can't judge. He have to live that life. So if that's what he is, kudos to him for being real and coming out with it.
Do you think it had anything to do with, though, lately he's had so much controversy around him saying that he possibly had AIDS, he looked like a meth victim, and because of his DUI, he's had so many people coming after him, and I'm wondering if that had any play on him actually saying, you know what, I'm just going to lay it all out there.
I think
I'm kind of tired
it seemed very
of fighting all of the craziness that's been online for him, because I mean, I feel like everyone has gone after him for, I mean, in such horrible ways. And he's saying that he actually doesn't, you know, he has an issue. He has, what, intestinal issues or something, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I can't remember what it was, a few weeks
weeks ago.
If
you've got something going on internally, emotionally, and you can't address it, and you can't try and, you know, come to terms with it, your body is going to react in all kinds of ways. So, and the thing is, he's been on a like a small concert tour over the last couple of months. And so it seemed like he was making this comeback, like Aaron Carter's finally coming back and more pop music, but you could kind of tell the more trouble he was getting into, like it just wasn't happening. So hopefully this will be the beginning of him finally being able to be happy. Hopefully.
Throw it all out there, come clean and move on.
Hope so. All right, so by now you've likely seen the video or heard about the incident that happened at a local Chick-fil-A. The River City Marketplace location was trashed last week during an argument over an order, according to a customer's Facebook post. The customer recorded and posted videos of the incident inside. 2 young women were seen arguing with Chick-fil-A employees at the counter, allegedly because their food wasn't hot enough. Then they proceeded to litter the floor with straws and condiment packets. I mean, they trashed the place. But these people still haven't been caught. I mean, ladies, do you think there is ever anything that could happen at a restaurant that would garner that kind of reaction? That deserves that kind of reaction?
Heck no. This is a pure case of ignorance. I am not calling these ladies ignorant. I am calling what they did pure ignorance. There was absolutely no reason for anyone to get that upset over some cold food, if that is what really happened. Chick-fil-A is usually on point with their orders.
Always.
Your food's going to be warm, it's going to be hot. So for them to allegedly receive food that is so cold that you are going to get out of your car and come inside and clown and act a straight fool over a $6 meal, something's wrong with your life. You
need to get your doors were locked. They actually broke the doors, broke the handle off in order to get in.
Yes.
But I mean, the thing is, I mean, at least they didn't hurt anybody. It wasn't, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. It looked like a mess and a messy situation. But all I know is if those parents don't get those children and take them in, my parents would have grabbed me as quick as anything. They would have taken me by my hair, put me in that Chick-fil-A and said, you will work, you will clean up, you will wear a sign that says you did this, and then you will actually serve the patrons that are complaining about their food that's cold for the rest of your life. I mean, my parents would have yanked a knot in my tail, should we say. So, I mean, they would, I mean, absolutely
deserves that type of treatment. Now, let's get it straight. These weren't children. This was grown
these were grown women.
They know right from wrong. They know better. If they, you know, some people are saying that they did it because they wanted free food. I find it hard to believe that anyone with breath in their body would act a fool like this.
You would be surprised. Have you ever worked in the service industry?
Yeah. I have.
Oh,
yes.
The stuff that I've had to come across, people who
for
clearly,
some free food?
You'd be amazed. You cannot rationalize with these kinds of people. Like, they will just show up, get mad at any little thing. There could be too much ice in the drink, and they are mad, and they're asking for a manager, and the manager just wants to get them out of the restaurant, and they're like, yes, we'll comp your entire bill. I'm so sorry. There was too much ice in your drink. Like, it's ridiculous.
But you know what? To me, the real hero in all this was one of the photos that that was up was this kid or this man was kneeling down on the floor, starting to pick up.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That is what took my
that
heart.
Kid, that little boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's happening, this has to get cleaned up, and he just started picking it up. So whoever he is, kudos to you, son.
Good job.
Kudos. That was awesome of you.
It was.
Yeah.
All right, well, coming up next, what is the best food to eat in front of someone you've just met? We'll tell you what the most popular one is anyway. We'll be right back.